Guys, welcome back to Medical Coding with Blue. Today's episode is all about why you should not pursue medical billing and coding. If you are brand new to my channel, welcome. I am Blue, I'm a medical coder. Okay guys, yes, you heard me right. Why you should not pursue medical billing and coding. This is for people who have not yet started a medical billing and coding program. Maybe you're on the fence and maybe you're trying to decide if this is something that you want to do. The things that I'm going to talk about today are usually the selling points that schools and programs will try to push on people, because these are the things that a lot of people say it is so great about our field. This field is wonderful. It is really great in that it offers a lot, not just professional growth, but it also offers personal growth when you invest in it. Because be sure, learning medical billing and coding is an investment. It is not just a little short time investment. It is a long-term investment. People who are the most successful medical billers and coders, or medical coders, or medical billers, they have spent time perfecting their craft. They know, they understand a lot of things. We have to know what doctors know while never having gone to medical school. Now, if that doesn't scare you, just the enormity of the things that we have to know as medical coders. And a lot of us have either just a high school diploma or a GED and our certification. So that's something that you really need to consider. This is a great field, but it's not made for everybody. Okay, so I'm going to talk through some things today, and hopefully this will give you a little bit more insight, because again, there's a lot of people out there that are trying to sell programs, but it's not about selling a program. It's about, this is a long-term thing that you're going to be invested in, and you really want to make sure that you are sure that you really want to commit to this before you start. Now, if you do decide to get into this and you do decide to go ahead and study it and go to the program, you're going to see that it is going to be a lot, and you may be tempted to think, this isn't for me. But give yourself a chance. I talked about this last night. Give yourself a chance to get out there and really see what it's like before you give up on it. Okay. But again, if you have not started the school yet, if you have not started investing, this video is for you. So here we go. The number one reason that you should not pursue medical billing and coding is because somebody told you that this field is easy. Oh, the doctors already select all the codes. All you have to do is just push them on through. Everything is done in the encoder, and all they have to do is just, push it on through and it'll get sent through for payment. No big deal. Wrong. This is not further from the truth. Yes, while we do have the electronic medical record, yes, while we do have encoders. Encoder, if you don't know, is an electronic medical code book that all you have to do is just type in a few words and you go through a decision tree, and it will give you a code based on what you selected. Now, this is a great tool, but it doesn't always give you the right code. If you are, choosing the path incorrectly, it can give you a wrong code. And if you don't know, you can always, look at it and be like, oh yeah, that's it. And in actuality, it could have been something else different. So if you are thinking that, oh, I don't ever have to look at these books and it's just going to be really easy, no. Because if a doctor selects the codes, which a lot of places they do, doctors will select codes, the coder essentially goes through and audits. And by audit, I mean that they look at the codes that were selected, they make sure that they are supported by the documentation, and then they send it on to the billing side. If they don't, then it's up to the coder to make sure that the codes get changed and updated to the correct codes that reflect what is documented in the note, right? However, there's just a lot of people who say, oh no, you don't have to do all that. Just go ahead and push it on through. This is wrong. This is unethical, because doctors are not meant to be medical coders. They are meant to document in the electronic medical record. And for those facilities that really highly depend on those electronic medical records, they see a lot of errors, because again, you can't rely on a machine to do critical thinking. And so this software, any electronic medical record, is going to be looking at words. It's just going to be looking at words, and that's all it's doing, because that's all it knows how to do. So again, this is why we have jobs, because we need to be that critical thinking side. And to be a high valuable, high caliber medical coder, we need to learn a lot. And of course, you're not going to know everything right away getting into the field. But when you are in the field, it doesn't mean that you can't develop yourself even on your own. When it comes to medical billing and coding, we have to do a lot of self-development, meaning that we don't have to wait for somebody to hold our hand and say, this is how you do it, this is how you do it. If you do get a really good mentor, that's wonderful, but you may not always find that, okay? So just be prepared that if you're going into a specialty clinic, like a cardiac clinic, and you're coding for them, make sure that you study up on those cardiac things and the procedures that happen in that particular clinic. That is, going above and beyond, and that is going to make for a better, much more smoother billing process, because the codes that are going to be submitted are going to be clean. The claims are going to be clean. And that's really the goal of any facility, any doctor's offices, is that you submit clean claims. And the coder goes hand in hand with that. And depending, again, on what the provider documented, then that's what's going to be going through. So if they told you, oh no, it's easy, all you have to do is just submit whatever the provider selected, no, because your name is on that claim at the end of the day. You are the coder that is responsible. We do have ethical standards. The American Health Information Management Association puts out a whole list of ethical standards that all medical coders, regardless of status, being a certified medical coder or not, regardless of the association they belong to, everybody, if you act in the capacity as a medical coder, you will follow the AHIMA standards of ethical coding, okay? So that's something that is very important for you to know. It doesn't matter what your school said. It doesn't matter what the recruiter said. I'm a veteran medical coder who's been in the field since 2008. I know a thing or two. And again, we are responsible for what we select. You can take a look at any articles out there and you will see that coders are responsible for the codes that are submitted. Okay, so that's something that you have to know right out of the gate. It is not easy. We are often called upon to know things that doctors know. As I've said in many videos, we have to know what doctors know while never having gone to medical school. We have to know about procedures. We have to know about diagnoses and the diagnosis process and the treatments and all the things that go along with these things, because the more we know, the more educated we are, the better the coding comes out, the more clear and the more detailed. And being detailed is a huge part of being a medical coder. Even on my channel, if you read any of the comments, you'll see every time somebody misspells my name, because my name is BLEU. A lot of people will spell my name BLU, which I cannot stand. Please don't do that. That's very annoying. And BLUE. Now I understand BLUE because a lot of times these things, they sort of reverse the letters, and but you can always go back and change it. But it's the detail. It's looking at what you're writing and just paying attention to detail. And medical coders are very detailed. So when I respond, my name is BLEU, that's the coder in me as well, because again, I'm very detailed. You always have to make sure that you have the correct spelling, that you have the correct ideas coming across, because again, that is what we do. Medical coders have to be really good speakers, really good writers, and we have to really like to read. Reading is fundamental to what we do. I've gotten many people who ask me this question: do we have to read all the time as medical coders? Yes. Yes, you do. Even as a biller, yes, you do. Because even as a biller, you still have to be able to keep up on the changes that happen quite frequently with insurance companies. Insurance companies sometimes have their own rules and they will change their rules at will. So that is something that you do have to be prepared for. We are a bunch of bookworms, book lovers, I know, but that is part of us, okay? So it's not easy. If they told you that it's easy, it's not, okay? The second reason that you should not pursue medical billing and coding is that you want to work remotely. Now, medical coders do work remotely. Some do, some don't. Some facilities are doing this hybrid schedule where they have the coders working at the facility maybe a couple days out of the month, or sometimes a couple days out of the week, and then the rest of the time they're at home. Now this is important because there still needs to be that one-on-one connection with providers. A lot of providers do not like to use email to communicate. And let's not talk about the miscommunications that can happen when there's emails going back and forth. And if you take a poll of any provider, they will tell you that emails get quite annoying. And not everybody is a very good writer. They don't like to write. And they tell me, Blue, when I write notes, it doesn't sound right. It doesn't sound like how I want to say it. And when it's just easier to see the person face to face and then have that conversation. Now, I always recommend for brand new medical coders that you start at a place where you have to physically go. Now, the reason that I say this is because this is important to medical coder development. Yes, there were some people when the pandemic started that this was their first job in medical coding. They had to work at home, right? Because everybody was at home. I got back to the facility as fast as I could because I could not. 5 months of that, oh, no. I had to be back at the facility. But that was me. But when you're brand new, you're going to see that book coding and real world coding are two completely different things, meaning that the books are going to give you all of the information that you have to know, every single detail, and there's not going to be anything that's missing. But when you get out into the real world, you're going to find the providers, they are just like me and you, right? They have good days, they have bad days, and they have some days where they don't want to document, they just want to see patients and move on. They don't want to do any clicky boxes. I always get, I don't want to do clicky boxes, Blue. I know, I don't want to do clicky boxes either. But you need to give me some documentation so I know what you did. I'm not in the room with you, okay? So it helps when you're face to face, but when you are brand new and you're working at home, it's really easy to get lost. And it's really easy to be, get your computer from the facility, wherever, set up your home office, and you're thinking, this is great, I'm ready to go. Let's rock and roll. And then you hit that first one, and then you're like, oh, I need help, I'm stuck. And you maybe email your team lead or whoever, and meanwhile, they're trying to do their work. And this is why it's very hard for brand new medical coders, because people don't want to have to train, unfortunately. But like I always say, that even if you are brand new, it doesn't mean that you don't have a lot to offer. And hopefully people hear me on my channel when I say that, new medical coders, if they've really studied hard and they've passed these assessment tests to get in, that says a lot about them and their study ethic. And to have a really good study ethic means that you can have a really good work ethic as well, because you're not going to be running back and forth to, a team lead. You're going to be able to look this stuff up on your own and do your own research to figure this stuff out. Because trust me, there's so many resources available on the internet that you can readily access. So it doesn't require you to have a bunch of other additional books, even though I will always recommend other additional books like the Coding Companion and things like that, depending on whatever specialty you're in, because it really does help. But when you're, working remotely as a brand new medical coder, I know people sell it like it's a dream. Oh, I don't have to be getting up, and I don't have to be around, coworkers, and I can just work in my own house, and I don't have to drive, and I don't have to get dressed, and I don't have to do all this. And some people think incorrectly that they can travel around in an RV and do this. You can't, guys. When it comes to the security of medical coding, before the pandemic, you had to have 3 to 5 years of experience, period. End of story. No ifs, ands, or buts. But again, now that we are in this sort of weird time, they do allow new medical coders. It is getting harder because people are requiring the medical coders to get back into the facilities now, which I don't see a problem with. But for those that want to do this solely for the purpose of working remotely, well, I want to be at home with my kids. Okay, but when you're working on a chart, you have to be able to focus. And if you're trying to stay at home so that you can be with your children, they are going to be a distraction. And that you can't really have, because when you're working as a medical coder, you need to be able to meet productivity standards and accuracy standards. There's a lot of selling the field, saying that, oh yeah, you can work at home and tend to the kids. You can't. It is like, you have to treat it like you're going to the office. And I've done many videos before talking about, you know, the pros and cons really of working remotely. And for somebody that's brand new, again, sometimes you don't know how to word the question. I remember that being an issue for me when I started. I didn't know how to word the question sometimes because I didn't really know what I was looking at in some instances. And I was like, I know what I'm thinking, but, you know, and my supervisor, who's now my friend Jessica, she's like, just tell me what you know. And so I would tell her what I know. She's like, oh, okay. And so she would kind of have an idea of what I was trying to say. But it doesn't always work that way with everybody. So again, I always recommend, and I will always recommend this, if you are brand new, spend time at a facility, then work at home. Now, if they are, say this is a remote position, and you will come to the facility for a month, train with us, and then we'll turn you loose at home. That is okay. That is okay, because this gives you time to set up for success. You're going to be around people who can mentor you, who can help you through those times when you're just like, I don't really understand this. And you're going to be able to ask them questions directly. And then you know, if you are able to talk with the providers, that's even better, because it's really hard to code for a provider and not really know that provider. It is possible, you can do this, but the more you personally know the provider, the better, because what they're saying on paper is going to make even more sense to you, so that way you can spot queries as you need to, okay? And as you start to work with your providers, if you're working with them in person, you're going to have less and less times that you're going to have to query. And that is always the goal, right? That they document so well that they don't have to be queried as often, okay? So that's just something that I would recommend. It's not all it's cracked up to be if you think that working from home is the way to go when you're starting off in medical coding. And even if you've been a nurse before, it doesn't matter, because nurses still struggle learning medical coding. And so again, it's really good to be with people before you go home and work remotely. That's just my advice anyway. And again, I want people to be set up for success, because it is very difficult when you are trying to be out there all by yourself and trying to figure this stuff out. At least if you give yourself a chance to work at a place, get that understanding, and then work at home, you're going to be a lot better off, okay? My advice anyway. And the last reason that you should not pursue medical billing and coding is that you're doing it for the money. Now, this is the number one rule on my channel. We do not talk about money in specifics on my channel, ever, never, ever. And the reason that I don't talk about money in specifics on my channel is because of this. There's a bunch of different markets for medical billing and coding. And every single market, meaning the different states, all have different starting salaries for medical billers and coders. I don't talk about this field when it comes to money, because everybody knows medical coders make good money. Everybody knows this. I don't have to say it. I don't have to repeat it. I don't have to give you a specific number. You can check with the Department of Labor or the Bureau of Statistics, and they will tell you in your area what medical billers and coders start out at. Now remember, starting salary does not mean that that is where you will stay. And a lot of people get fixated on a particular number, because again, they're having this being sold to them. Oh, you're going to make all of this money and all this and all that. When they say you can make up to really kind of refers to people who've had experience, not brand new medical coders. This is why I tell you, if you really want the specific number that you're going to be, you should be expected to start out at, go to the Department of Labor or the Bureau of Statistics and find that information out in your state. So that way you can know for sure what they start off in that area. But again, if you are looking at this for the money, you're going to be miserable, because the money is there and the money will come to you if you don't fixate on it. It's the people who fixate on that money, who chase the money, who are eventually miserable, because they have higher standards. The higher you go in the salary scale, the more they're going to demand from you. The higher the accuracy, in which accuracy should always be high. But they're going to demand higher accuracy. They're going to demand more productivity out of you. So these are the two things that you really need to look at in terms of when they're asking for more money. Now, when they're saying that they're going to pay more money, again, you have to be prepared. These are going to be the more difficult places to work. The more level 1 trauma hospitals, and the more intensive cardiac things, or even transplant hospitals. Those things are going to be very intense. You have to have a lot of knowledge. They're paying you for your knowledge. So if you've gone through one of these little fast-paced medical coding schools that's less than 6 months, and yeah, you can make all this money, and that's what you're expecting, then again, you're going to be chasing money the whole time, and you're going to be miserable because of all the things that you have to do. And if you don't educate yourself, if you don't prepare yourself, then obviously you aren't going to last very long, right? Making all that dream money. Because again, if you can get in, but you can't hold it because you can't meet that productivity or you can't meet that accuracy, that's a problem. So there's a lot of responsibility when it comes to this industry. And again, if you're not chasing the money, it will come to you. When I first started in medical coding back in 2008, the first job that I got, it paid very well. I was like, oh, okay, and I was working with a temp agency, and it was a 3-month assignment. And so I was like, okay, no big deal. This is great. I'll start out at this, and, I'll do well, And after that assignment, I went to another assignment that was for 8 months, also with a temp agency, the same one. And I had an even bigger jump. Not really looking at the money right then, right? But I got an even bigger jump on that second job. And then when I found my forever home, which I was actively applying when I was at the second facility, because I was trying to get back home. And that was all I wanted, was to get back home. And if you've been with my channel a while, you know my story, but I'm running out of time, so I'm going to make this quick. And then when I got here, I got an even bigger jump. The whole time, my goal was to get in. That was my focus, was to get in. It wasn't about, oh, I want to make this money, I'm going to chase this job because I want to make this X amount of money, because I think that that's what I deserve. No, I wanted to get in, by any means and all means, to get in. And I did. And it led me to my first job, led me to my second job, which gave me the skill that I needed to get into my forever home. And I was rewarded with a very nice salary, a very comfortable salary. So again, if you are totally fixated on the fact that you think that you should make all this money, that coders who have to work for years to get that knowledge, that's just something that you really need to think about. Because it's not just, oh, they're going to pay me X amount of money. You also have to keep in mind that there's a fee for that. There's a fee in that you have to have your certifications, right? Certification for a brand new medical coder, you should only have one. You should really start with one for the first 2 years. Start with your certification. And then you have to be able to maintain that certification with the continuing education units. Depending on which one you're with is going to depend on how many you're going to need. Which is why I tell new medical coders to stick with one. Because you don't want to bog yourself down having to collect all these other CEUs and maybe you're still looking for a job. Some employers offer CEUs and others do not. So again, make it easy for yourselves. Spend the first 2 years with one certification, because trust me, all of those certifications are unnecessary because employers will not pay you extra for those. Okay, unless they're asking for something specific at their facility. They will not pay you extra for those. And when you get additional credentials, let it be because you know what you're doing. You have experience to back up those additional credentials, not because you want a whole conga line of credentials after your name. If you can't fulfill any of those, if you can't really specifically dive in and be able to teach somebody else those, then you should really wait and consider. Because again, you're just giving out money that you're not getting back. Because people with a whole alphabet after their name can make the same as somebody with one certification. And how do I know? Because I did it. I had one for many years. And I still made more than people who have a bunch of different credentials after their name. It's not about keeping up with the Joneses, folks. It's about making sure that you are educated. I'm just saying. So those are my top 3 reasons why you should not pursue medical billing and coding, because it is a lot. And it's not just an investment for 6 months. It is an investment of your time and money for the rest of your career. I'm just saying. So if this video helped you, I hope that you will like it, subscribe if you haven't already, hit that thumbs up button, and I will see y'all on the next episode. Bye.